All right, if you've got a Toyota Prius, Toyota Hybrid, or Lexus CT200, something like that, a Lexus Hybrid, and your engine's running rough, especially at idle or close to it, you either got a clogged EGR system, and we're gonna look at that today, or you got a blown head gasket or some other type of neglected maintenance. Let's look at the EGR system. On this engine, your EGR is gonna be right down in here, so take this off. Oops, I cracked it a little. Be careful with the plastic parts, especially as they get older. This car is a 2012, 2025. This is what we're looking at. We want to look at the plunger on here. Take these screws off, take this electrical connection off, and try to get it to move freely before you do anything else. If these two screws don't want to move, tap it with a hammer, something like this. A couple good solid taps, and then try to move it, and it should break free. That's exactly what it took for me. That's it. Don't drop the screws either. Before you go any further, take this electrical connection off. Just squeeze down here, separate it, and you're gonna get this plastic part off. There's the plunger right there. These usually get stuck in the open position is what happens. So you wanna make sure it moves freely and closes completely. And hopefully this won't break like the brittle plastic. This is all metal. Of course, it's got exhaust gases, hot exhaust gases flowing through. So you need this thing to be smooth, operational. If it gets hung up in any way, which means it would be in the down position slightly, it's gonna let exhaust gases in at idle or part throttle off idle, and it'll hesitate and shake the engine again. Or you may have a blown head gasket. Let's hope it's just this. This should be cleaned out actually, ideally, from time to time. This and the EGR cooler in front of it, or the EGR manifold, which is what this pipe goes to, into the main intake manifold under the air cleaner here. Also, just a little lesson here so you understand how these systems work. These are only to reduce emissions. That's it, recirculating part of the hot exhaust. Flows through here, back into your engine. But this thing gets clogged, like I said, and when it gets clogged, it hangs open, partially like this, hangs open. Doesn't shut all the way, doesn't seat all the way. And then it lets too much exhaust gas in all the time, and it carbons up your whole intake manifold. That gets clogged too, but that's secondary. This pipe and the intake manifold, the four little holes in each of the openings for fresh air, they get clogged. You gotta clean that out, or you gotta replace that. That's generally what happens with this. And yes, the cooler in front of this that comes right off the exhaust, that will also get clogged, but that's a more long-term project. This is what usually happens up front, is this EGR valve, which can be replaced or cleaned, and the intake manifold. Two biggest culprit areas, just FYI. You also want to kind of spin it around while you're doing that. It'll kind of cake off any kind of debris that's keeping it from properly seating, but again, all the different positions, spin it all around 360, in and out, and if that doesn't solve your problem, you know what to do after that. I don't know if I mentioned, this car is 13 years old, has over 200,000 miles at it at the time of this recording. By the way, if you ever want to isolate, if you want to narrow down to an EGR issue, see this? Take these two bolts off. This is the pipe that sends the EGR gases that flow past the EGR valve into the intake manifold. Just open this up and slide like a putty knife to cover that, and then run the engine for a few, like 30 seconds, 10 seconds. After that, if it's all smooth and doesn't do that weird shaking and vibrating and rattling, then you know it's EGR related. If there's no change by blocking this off with a putty knife, like I was saying, then it's not EGR, it's something else, like a head gasket, like I was telling you. One last little note of caution is that even if this flows freely, even if your cooler, your exhaust gas cooler that runs into the EGR valve flows freely, even if this pipe flows freely, you still may have ports that are clogged in your intake manifold and not a blown head gasket. So just make sure you check out all those parts first. But head gaskets, change that coolant, if this coolant level is dropping for any reason in this tank, it's either going into your cylinder or leaking out. It could be that cooler in the exhaust for the EGR. Could be one, just because you're losing coolant doesn't mean it's a head gasket. Could be a leaky EGR cooler over here, okay? That's behind, it's hard to get to. You gotta take the whole cowl off and the windshield wiper to get to it. It's a lot easier to just do this than to have to tear the whole system apart. All right, now let's see if it's smooth at startup. It doesn't sound good at all. And that valve looks bad, and if you want to make it drivable, it's going to set a code. But basically, take off that cover, remember it? I showed it right here. Take it off, disconnect the wire, leave it off, make sure it is closed all the way. Then you're not going to pass emissions like that. You didn't hear it from me, and that's not advice.